Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, July 24th, 2015. And Secretary of John Kerry defended the deal to curb Iran's nuclear program in Congress this week. Critics say it's weak, it's a bad deal, and ramps up the arms race, both nuclear and conventional, in the Middle East. Now, if Congress does not approve this deal, Kerry says, and I quote, "we'll have squandered the best chance we have to solve this problem through peaceful means." A lot of people say that's a false narrative. You should have had a better deal. And then there's new news of secret side deals that the White House supposedly has admitted to, and that Republican congressmen say they won't release the secret side deals. Well, I guess it's not secret anymore, but there are side deals, and what's in them is secret. They won't release the deals. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, he's a Republican, and he says if this deal is being kept secret, then, quote, "what other elements may also be secret and entirely free from public scrutiny," end quote. Now, the House and Senate have 60 days to vote on the Iran nuclear deal to curb Iran's nuclear program. But, you know, the president signed a bill from Congress that said, hey, listen, overwhelming bipartisan support said, if you do this deal, we want to see it first before you go ahead. What does he do? Goes right to the UN, votes yes on it, and now most of the deal is going to be implemented. The sanctions are going to be lifted. They're going to get their $150 billion of money. And basically, the president says, and John Kerry says, oh, you better vote for this. I find it hard to believe that even Democrats are going to vote for something with secret side deals. Yeah, just go ahead and vote for it. Don't worry about it. Listen, the side deals prove it's a sham. That's really what we're talking about here. Likely in the side deal, they say, hey, you can't inspect our military sites. And Kerry and Obama said, sure, yeah, okay, fine. We just want a deal. I mean, they caved in at the last minute and said, oh, yeah, ballistic missiles, conventional weapons, sure, yeah, fine, yeah, no problem. 5 to 8 years down the road. But listen, the House and the Senate, which are controlled by Republicans, but listen, there are a lot of bipartisan support for this last bill to say, hey, we want to see it first. That didn't happen. But it's going to get voted down in the House and Senate. Then it's going to go to the president's desk, and he's going to veto it. He's going to want it to go through. The only question is he going to have enough Democratic votes to override a veto? Are there going to be enough Democratic votes to override a veto? I don't see how anybody who's a Democrat who's going to vote for this, who's going to bite down on the secret side deals and not know what's in it. I mean, there's 10 Democrats up for re-election. One of them, Chuck Schumer. I find it hard to believe they're going to vote for a deal they don't know what's totally in it. They say the devil's in the detail. In this case, there's two big side deals that nobody knows anything about. I think those are two big details. Meanwhile, the Iranians are publicly saying that it will buy and sell weapons whenever and to whomever it wants. Iranian officials say that Iran, quote, Iran will not adhere to any current restrictions of its arms trade. Now, remember the conventional and ballistic, they were supposed to, put that off for 5 to 8 years. Iran says, oh, no, we're going to do it now. We're going to do it now. And Kerry said, hey, you vote for this. This is a good, peaceful deal. Iran continues to taunt the U.S. and says it will, continue to mess with the U.S. Also, it says, in quote, Israel's security will not be ensured whether or not there is a nuclear deal agreement or not. Israel's security will not be ensured whether there is a nuclear agreement or not. That's what they say. They're going to keep attacking Israel. They've said the Revolutionary Guard is saying they're going to, the annihilation of Israel is on the table. They're going to continue that way. Which, how can there be a peace deal with this kind of a backdrop? I mean, and it's not just the Israelis. I mean, the bigger problem, I think, are the Arabs. I mean, we have Saudi Arabia that buys and sells oil exclusively in dollars, and I brought this up again. If they get mad enough, all they have to do is say, we're going to sell our oil in other currencies, in, rupee, yuan, ruble, euro, not just dollars, but any currency. The dollar takes a header off a cliff right there, right then and there. And that's, they're not talking about that, but that is a possibility. And don't think it's not. I mean, the Arabs feel sold out. Where a Fifth Fleet is docked, right? In the Western Persian Gulf in Bahrain. You think they like this deal? I mean, I mean, the Sunni Arabs have said that the deal opens the, quote, gates of evil, end quote. That's what they say. Sunni Arabs hate this deal. This is not a deal that is stabilizing things in the Middle East when Iran says we're going to buy and sell weapons to whoever we want. We're going to forget about any kind of sanctions for weapons. Well, what is that? What do you think the Arabs think about that? They need all the weapons they can get now. There was already an arms race going on in the Middle East. I've talked about how Saudi Arabia, not only do they want to buy nuclear weapons from Pakistan, word is they finance, the building and the research on nuclear weapons in Pakistan. There is no doubt that that there was a arms race already in the last couple of years in the Middle East. I mean, Saudi Arabia, at one shot, I think in 2012, bought $60 billion of U.S. arms. One shot, one of the biggest purchases ever. And this is only going to kick the arms race in the Middle East into hyperdrive. This is not stabilizing. This is destabilizing, and it speeds up the prospects for war in the Middle East, and I hope I am wrong. But that's what the news stories, to me, show me that this is getting worse. You got to ignore a lot to think this is a peace deal. You got to ignore what everybody says, the entire Middle East. Next up, national security of the United States has possibly been compromised, according to the White House Office of Personnel Management. You remember, this was reported a week or so ago, that detailed information on more than 21 million former and current federal employees got leaked out, was hacked into. This is detailed information. And it's also reported that, this huge leak could hurt our national security, especially in time of war or time getting ready for war. And I wanted to bring this out. I think it's worse than that. I mean, this is Valerie Plame. Plame calls the breach a disaster. Valerie Plame is the former CIA covert operative that got outed, Scuba Libby, the whole deal with that she got outed. Dick Cheney, the whole thing with that. Remember that. And Plame calls the breach a disaster. Well, no, what she really said was, quote, it's catastrophic to our national security, end quote. That's huge. And my question is, why doesn't anybody in government, no matter how bad they mess up, get fired? I mean, before the crash, the SEC, or with this, with some of the Bernie Madoff thing that was found out that they were watching porn on their computers, nobody gets fired. You grind up Valerie, grind up Lois Lerner's a hard drive and erase all of her emails, and nobody gets fired. You breach the security of the United States, and poof, well, I hope I get my pension and my lifetime, medical benefits, and nobody gets fired. I mean, what do you have to do to get fired in the federal government? I don't know. There's nothing that'll get you fired in the federal government. Nothing. Nobody ever gets fired. The mainstream media looks like it is lying by omission with this huge Planned Parenthood story. Let me talk about the story a bit. I think this is the biggest story since Roe v. Wade. This is the story where high-ranking medical doctors who have the ability to say yay or nay on deals to sell fetal tissue were caught on tape by a group called Center for Medical Progress. They were caught on tape in some gruesome details. If you haven't seen it, go look on the videotapes. But they were apparently, to me, were negotiating deals for fetal organs and also negotiating on how to remove the fetuses, without damaging the organs, which is supposedly a felony. And selling the tissue, supposedly a felony. Now, Planned Parenthood, the president of Planned Parenthood says all these charges are not true. These are not true. They did not sell fetal tissue. They have done nothing wrong. That's basically what Planned Parenthood said. But the video tells a different story. I mean, one doctor said, we might be able to get the fetuses out in a less crunchy way. And the implications of this story are huge. Number one, criminal implications. It's illegal to remove fetuses in a way where you're preserving the organs so you can sell them. It's illegal to sell the organ. And again, Planned Parenthood says they're not doing this. It's illegal. So there's criminal implications. There are tax implications. If they sold these organs and they made money, were they supposed to report that income? The people at the Center for Medical Progress say they've been doing this for decades. Whew, boy, that's an awful big tax load if you've been doing this and find out you needed to pay taxes on all that. There's also funding issues in Congress. This is the same story now. This story is going to hatch full-grown babies. There are funding issues in Congress. They get $500 million a year, and Congress does not want to fund this. And then there is the implications of class action lawsuits. So how could that be? Well, listen, these mothers that were getting abortions were told that they were donating their fetuses to science. And apparently what they left out, what it appears they left out, is they were donating the fetuses so Planned Parenthood could turn around and sell them and make some money. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like on the videos. But Planned Parenthood says, no, that's true. Now, this is a huge story by any stretch of the imagination. You don't even have to be a journalist to understand how big this is. But you know what? The mainstream media has decided they're going to lie by omission. That's my term. They're just lying by omission. There's my local liberal rag, the Greensboro News and Record. And I called the editor at the Greensboro News and Record and said, hey, how can you miss this? This is 2 weeks in a row. The Center for Medical Progress has released these huge stories. There is no journalistic reason why you shouldn't be covering this story. The editor tells me, well, we don't have, the resources to cover national stories. Really? This paper every week, every day is full of Associated Press AP stories. You mean you can't just get an AP story and at least cover the story, which is huge? It has all these implications: criminal, tax, liability, funding. This is huge. And I tell him who I am. I'm Greg Hunter, USA Watchdog. And he says, and I said, so there's no journalistic reason. So my premise, or my what I'm thinking is that this is just a political choice that you guys have decided to make, to lie by omission, because it's gruesome. And it makes your liberal buddies look bad at Planned Parenthood and your pro-abortion people. Click, goodbye. Goodbye, click. And then there's the USA Today. And let me tell you, listen, I'm an avid reader of both the local paper and the USA Today. Here's just the last, 3 days of paper. Nothing in the mainline paper. This paper comes out and says that they are the nation's news. It's right at the top. It's the nation's news at the top of the paper. They are the source, the go-to source for news in the nation. That's what they say. The nation's news. They get about 5 million subscribers, maybe a little more, 5.5 million newspaper subscribers. And I called up USA Today, and somebody there told me that, well, they're really pushing their website. And I told you last week it was on the website. So I go on the website this week, and it's not on the front page of the website, just like it's not on the front page of the paper or anywhere else in the newspaper. You actually go in there, and there's all this other junk. And remember, this is a huge story. There's no journalistic reason why they shouldn't cover this. It's a huge story. And you have to go into the search bar and put Planned Parenthood selling fetal organs. Boom. And then a few stories come up, and including the denial from the president of Planned Parenthood saying that none of this is true. So I contacted, I was given a name, Donna Leanwine, and left her a message, said, this is Greg Hunter, USAWatchdog.com. And I want to quote, my premise is that you guys didn't cover this. There's no journalistic reason why you shouldn't cover this. And I challenge anybody at USA Today to come on this program. I'll afford them time. We'll do a Skype interview, and they can come on and explain to me, a 35-year-old journalism veteran that worked at 5 TV stations and 2 networks as investigative correspondent, to tell me how journalistically they gave this a big fat pass when there are legal criminal implications, there are funding implications, there is class action lawsuit implications. It's huge implications with this story. Although it's just gross. I mean, they're talking about selling body parts in these videos while they're drinking wine and eating food. One person in the latest video, and these are all medical doctors with the power to make a deal to sell body parts. That's what it looks like on the video. And they're discussing prices and how much for the tissue. I mean, it's gross. Talking about maybe there's a less crunchy way we can pull that fetus out. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that would make, World War II Nazi Joseph Mengele, that monster, make him look proud. And I said to the USA Today person, Donna Linwan, that, listen, give me a call. Here's my email. Here's my voicemail. Here's my number. I think this is a political ploy because you don't like the narrative. And this makes your liberal pro-abortion buddies look like, well, monsters and criminals, in my humble opinion. Nobody ever got back with me. And the offer's open to USA Today. If you want to come on and explain why you're not covering this story or why you're burying it on usatoday.com, please come on and tell me why you're doing it, why this isn't a story. I have no idea what they did Friday in the website or the newspaper. This is done late Thursday night. So, but even if they did something after 2 weeks, wow, are they behind the curve? And the question's the same. Why haven't you covered a huge story with implications for funding, for criminality, for class action lawsuits? Why haven't you done this story? Not even mentioned it on your newspaper and buried it on your website. I'm Greg Hunter. One last thing. Got to get this in. Here we go. And in my never-ending story about bankers committing crime, and this says this is more illegality according to the USA Today. City to pay $700 million for deceptive marketing. They called it an illegal action here. Again, a $700 million fine, and nobody goes to jail in the big banks. You tell me the big banks aren't running the show along with the government. I don't know. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself physically, mentally, and above all, spiritually. Fear not.